All right, everyone, welcome in. I am redeeming myself slightly. I hate to use the word redeeming because I love Nosferatu, and we talk about it being a romantic movie in our first episode here. And I said, you know what? I have to redeem myself. I have to show Sam the actual content that I think is love and good content in romantic movie. That my interest in that genre is not pure delusion. That it's not me pulling shit out of nowhere, and that I have an appreciation for the art of it all. And this movie, In the Mood for Love, is what I decided to land on, which I don't know if you would expect, considering not a happy ending.
You and that would no, it's not nearly okay. So I have so many thoughts about this this movie, and I went on a journey with this.
You're welcome.
Out the gate, I'm going to tell you, yes, far more enjoyed this than I did your previous offering of a quote unquote romance movie.
He texted me that, guys, and I sent him back a picture of a gun. Just so you know, Nosferatu justice, okay?
Yeah. I will actually say, to start it off, really just to kind of jump in bold here. I think this is the first, what I'm going to say, serious Chinese movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a Hong Kong romance. Yeah.
I haven't seen that many Chinese movies. My entire like baseline with them is like Jackie Chan movies, Kung Fu Hustle, and a movie that I may subject you to later called Ricky O, which is like if Terrifier met Street Fighter. And anyway,
sure. But I will say,
yeah,
not to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good.
It's kind of, so it's like it's a French and Hong Kong movie. So it's a little bit different than China per se, in the sense of like some of the themes. We'll get into that later, but I think it's probably more accurate for the audience to call it like more related to Hong Kong than China per se.
I get just, yeah, because of that. But like as far as
that side of the world.
And like everything, like, I mean, I watch a lot of like Japanese films and South Korean movies. I feel like those are just, I don't know, they usually, they have like an easier pipeline to America, I feel like.
Yeah.
Especially around the time when this came out, which is a whole nother discussion I have to get into. But like, so I really was like, I had no idea what to expect, because everything else I've ever watched was like a genre movie or like a pulpy type movie. You know, love Jackie Chan, but I mean, he's not really making Oscar winners.
Sure. He's had a couple bangers, but I'll allow it.
I mean, I love his movies, but you know, mostly I'm just like, look at him jump through that little hole. Can I bring up this? Because this blew my mind. When I found out what year this movie was made in.
Really?
So I have a not great memory, and we have talked about doing this now for about 2 weeks or so. And you sent me, like, you know, we talked about it over Zoom essentially, or whatever, you know, you want to call it, Discord, or I'm old.
Right.
But
Riz fighting for his life to not say Skype.
I was trying to think AOL AIM.
Oh my God. All right. Over. Thank you guys for listening to.
But I had forgotten the name of the movie. I was so yesterday I'm like, I need to remember what the movie is. So I started doing what started to feel like an increasingly more and more xenophobic, like like search schedule. I was like, because I remember it being listed as like one of the greatest you know,
just movies. Yeah.
I think it specifically said, like, on his Wikipedia page, like one of the, like, rated one of the greatest, like, Chinese romance movies of all time. But I forgot it was China. So I initially started off with greatest Japanese romance movies. Oh, of the 60s, nothing came up.
Oh, 60s.
Greatest of the 70s, nothing came up. Then I was like, South Korean movies from the 60s, 70s. It wasn't until I just somehow, apparently, I probably got as basic as like Asian movies, like search. I finally found it. And I was like, based on the stills I saw of the movie and the poster, I 100% thought this was like a 60s and 70s movie, but it's not.
I mean, you're kind of accurate for like the time period they wanted to portray, though, right? Like it ends off in '66, so you're right there,
I mean,
stylistically.
don't patronize me. That was
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. If I
it
saw
takes
that,
place in the 60s. Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Now I have a question. That's actually one I wanted to. I was then like, I'm like, is this a stylistic choice? Because to me, it looks like a movie that was shot, I would say more 70s and 60s, to be honest. Like it has that like soft tone on it that the 70s kind of had.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, like, I was like, okay, this could be a stylistic choice to try and make it feel older than it is because it is from 2000, or is this just like, I mean, Chinese movies of that era were not exactly like the most technically advanced. So I'm like, they might be using older equipment. You know, I was kind of like, I couldn't decide which way it was going.
I think it's a little different. I mean, I wouldn't say it's about cost effectiveness or whatnot, or like using certain materials. Wong Kar-wai had already been successful up into this point with the project. I mean, these are two of like the biggest actors at that time.
Yeah.
And having that. Now, what I think it's more just a stylistic choice because, and they kind of hint on this in the movie, and this might be getting a little too far ahead, but they talk about all of the political tensions. There's like this, oh, I'm leaving Hong Kong for the US, I'm going here, blah, blah, like a lot of chaos. And I think that kind of is something to know to understand like the movie in and of itself and the characters' relationships to each other. So I think it's almost like that story had to be told at that time if those themes are how you would choose to interpret the movie.
And that's kind of where my brain, I feel like, settled on as well. Like I was like, this feels too much of a choice to, So oh, real quick, because we are going to say this name, I feel like, a lot, and we did not explain who's the director of this movie.
Wong Kar-wai. I love him. I love him. I have watched only one of his movies so far. I've watched Days of Being Wild, and which is good because this loose trilogy is that movie, this movie, and then 2046. So I'm very excited for that progression. But there's a lot of movies of his on my list.
Oh, I mean, I would be curious to see more. And I'll be honest, I may, whether or not we do it for the pod, I may watch 2046.
I think we should, as a follow-up, at least. Even if we don't record it, we just need to see it.
I think it warrants it. Because this was I was never bored by this movie, and that's a huge thing for me, especially coming off your last pick.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Sorry,
that's so funny, Sam.
I'm sorry, I'm being real. But the truth of the matter was the last movie bored me to tears. And this movie, perfect, as I said, the current runtime, not on Instagram, on HBO Max is 91 minutes, which is like a perfect runtime. And the editing and the cuts in this movie are so frequent that, like, even if a scene was kind of like, you know, maybe it starts to drag, 4 minutes later, a rapid cut's coming and something it's going to take another like hard turn.
Yeah, it's either the scene itself changes or you get access to a scene and you think one type of thing is happening and you think the confrontation is happening and then they pan over and it's not. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it keeps you very visually interested the whole time, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do we want to set up a plot here? Because I guarantee this is going to be a movie that the majority of people who are listening or viewing or watching the clips have no idea what this is. So I feel like we need to sort of hold their hand a little bit.
Yeah.
And while we go through this journey, because if we just start like, well, Chow did this and then Sue did that, it's like, okay, well.
Yeah, it's you know, and the synopsis is almost difficult, I think, to understand. I mean, there is an element of, I don't want to say confusion. I always get confused when they're like, their spouses are seeing each other. I'm like, yeah, their spouses. Oh, right. Right. It's the other. Yeah. So the general synopsis for everyone listening who might be interested, we're not getting into too many spoilers-ish yet. So if you
Say,
do want to
I'm going to
pause
spoil
now,
the shit out of this
we're
movie by
getting
the
there.
end of it.
We're getting there. But for now, we've just kind of lightly, oh well, it's kind of sad or whatever.
Just dip a toe into the misery.
Yes, exactly. We are in late 50s, early 60s Hong Kong. It is summertime. Oh man, the cicadas, the heat. It feels like summer. It's so beautiful. The setting is amazing, immaculate. You can like feel the humidity. The scenes are so good. And we have two people who are renting apartments in the same building, the same rooms in the apartment, I guess I should say. And they discover that their two individual spouses are cheating with each other. And they're trying to figure out how that happened, how that began. And that's the loose.
That's the
plot.
setup. And I think we should keep it there for a minute because
Yeah.
there's some stuff that needs to be discussed. I want to talk about this fucking apartment building.
Okay.
What? I mean, granted, I'm assuming this is just maybe a cultural thing, but that is not how an apartment building in America works one bit. Where you like, it's more or less, it feels like it's a house that has individual rooms in it. Because I've never been into an apartment building in America where like you go downstairs and everybody's like, it's game night. Woo! Most people in America are like, get the fuck away from me and never talk to me.
And I actually think that's important to the movie. And I think that's why certain shots are framed the way they are. That's kind of what I touched on as well. Like, as far as this movie had to take place in this time period, there is an element of privacy and not having it. There's the element of gossip. There's the element of even just the setting, how busy Hong Kong would have been in that time, how the culture was, like you leaving your doors open and like having those kind of open conversations, you having these strong neighborly vibes with people. And I think that's all intentional. But just because we've already got on that launch, that little part here, I think that's why a lot of the shots are framed in the way they are. They're a frame in a frame. Like when you see them through a window, or when you see them through a hallway, or you see one of the other two in a doorway, most of the beginning frames of the movie are a frame in a frame. There's a lot of scenes of the two of them, and it's supposed to like almost give you the idea like you're also observing them. And I thought that was portrayed really well.
I thought it was, I didn't pick up on it until a particular shot, which was my favorite shot of the movie. It was it's a scene, which we're a little bit jumping ahead here, but yes, you're right. The filmmaking of this movie is probably the most interesting. I don't even know, but like, yes, I didn't necessarily pick up on all of the shots. It wasn't until the shot, which I thought was so wild, but also cool, where they're having a private conversation in one of their two rooms, but they don't want everyone else to know they're having the conversation. And it's shot from inside of a closet. So you're literally seeing like coats and sweaters and shit like hanging in front of your view. So it does feel like almost like you're not supposed to be seeing this either. And that's when I picked up on what he was doing. And I was like, that's a bold fucking choice. But like, I actually thought it worked really well.
Yes, I love that. And I think it leads into so many of those elements in the film. For me, like, because when they stopped that, which is what I really enjoyed, I was like, okay, frame in a frame. Like, it's giving, like, there's some really classic movies that do this kind of stylistic choice. I'm loving it. And then we get to the scene where they're having their conversation at the restaurant. And they are very casually dancing around the subject of discovering if the other person knows that the two spouses are sleeping together. Yeah, they're having this affair, whatever. They're very casually dancing around the subject. And it's shot so well. They never occupy the same frame. They go from one to the other, they go from one to the other, and it doesn't have that connection until they actually get to, okay, they're having an affair. I thought I was the only one who knew. And then the camera pans back and forth between them, establishing this like crazy connection. And the next time you see them on screen, they're together in the same frame. And I was like, oh my God, Wong Kar-wai, I love you. Why are you like this?
You're like
I was freaking out. I was like, what's happening?
This movie has to be such a to give an olive branch. This has to be such a welcome snapback for you, because you watched Terrifier and looked for all of these things. Like, well, this color means this, this, that. This you actually have some of that to get into, and a lot of unusual stuff.
Yes, I do appreciate. I can like very surface level popcorn flick type movies. I'm not an elitist in that way. I love it. I am at every single fucking Marvel movie. Like I am that guy.
That
But
makes me more sad for you than the Nosferatu one.
listen, I love it. I love all film, and I think they just serve different purposes. But I really do appreciate when I can enjoy it on that level. Like I think
Deeper level.
as a film, this is probably one of the best films I've ever seen. Is it my favorite? Is it anywhere near my favorite? No, I'm gonna be honest. I have some complaints, but I think on a technical level, and like their attention to theme and color, and to be able to pull all of that off, and all that symbolism, and all these like all this atmospheric just energy that he can pull off without really having a script, because he's like improving this with the characters, they're rewriting in certain scenes, like being able to have all that style and make it feel so perfect. And when making it, it was kind of on the go.
Chaotic.
Yeah, it's
I-
so good.
So like I like to look up the IMDb trivia, which usually is some moron being like, did you see that she wears blue in one scene, but in the other scene she wears orange? Like, yeah,
Me.
like, but like if it means something, but half the time, because anybody who pays for an IMDb Pro subscription can like put whatever they want, but like there's
Oh,
usually
wow.
a couple good ones.
Mm.
And I thought the one that I found, which is again, I know nothing about Mr. Wright Wong. Like
Wong Kar-wai, the director.
Wong Kar-wai.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it said that like initially the Chinese government got involved because they wanted to see the script of the movie because that's how they be. And he's like, I don't have one. I don't have a script. He's like, so I'm sorry, can't help you.
He said freelance in this.
And I also saw, which I was like, fucking wild. They said this movie took 15 months to make, to shoot. The average movie, even like a Marvel movie, takes like 3 to 6 months. So like pretty wild for a movie that's mostly just people talking. Like
Yeah, he's very he's definitely known to be the type of director that has basically a whole other movie.
I would
Like
assume
out of
that
all the deleted content, there's like a whole other movie in that bitch.
you could probably like you could like Power Ranger his shit and like take his movie, especially since he reuses the same actors, and you could just sew that shit together and make all kinds of movies.
You probably could. I love it though. It reminds me of like I don't know, like the movie is like a block of marble and he's carving it out and he sees the shape as he goes, and it's like so beautiful and so chaotic, and I don't know. I love that kind of art. It's so human.
Yeah. I don't think I'm shitting on it for that.
Oh, no,
I
you're not.
actually think it's good. Like I'm a fan of improv. I love improv comedy. I love like just people who have the ability to kind of come up with shit on the go. I think it's actually probably a little more impressive to come up with something like that. And at the end of the day, you take all of this stuff and you're like, oh, and actually it makes sense. It makes a plot that is beginning to middle and end that makes sense, because there's a lot of people that make movies and have a script, and at the end they don't necessarily have a beginning, middle, and end. I don't want to hear.
Right.
I think we should introduce our main characters.
Yes.
We haven't even said their names yet, so we have Mr. Chow. Chow is the male lead of the film. He is a journalist who has aspirations of being he wants to write serials about martial artists, which I believe is kind of the equivalent, if I'm correct, because it's from what it looked like almost like the equivalency of just having like a running column in a newspaper or a magazine or whatever that just had like, stories little bit by little bit.
Yeah.
And then we have it's Sue, right?
Miss Chan, yeah. Mrs. Chan.
See, I went by their first. I went by their first names. I got to know the characters a little bit.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're so different. You know them so well. Oh my god.
And then there's Sue, who is the female lead, who she works in a shipping office, and we never get if I'm correct, I don't think we ever get to see her husband, which I'm assuming is a choice. We only ever hear his voice. And what did you think of that choice? Because I noticed that and I'm like, that has to mean something, but I can't figure out what.
It's the same for his wife as well, Mr. Chow.
See, I thought you see
you
her,
see the back of her head.
Because she in one scene is asking for the purses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought, well, you maybe see the back of her head then. But yeah, they definitely are trying to keep them out of the picture.
Yeah, you see the back of their head, both of them, and you hear both of their voices at different times. I also thought that was wonderful because they're not our main characters. Get out of the fucking way. Get out of the fucking way. Plus, also, I think
they're not supposed to be there. Isn't that the whole thing? They're not there.
Yeah, really. Yeah, truly. But I also think it leads into, because the main thing is that these two, as they're falling in love, if we want to call it that, we'll leave that for now. We'll put a pin in that. They are role playing the other one's spouse, right? And trying to see about what this affair happened, this, blah, blah, blah. And there's an element of confusion to certain scenes, not knowing, what have I just walked into? Are they talking to their spouse? Are they not talking to their spouse? Are they talking to each other? And I think to have the right, the audience can't have any preconceived notions about Sue's husband or Mr. Chow's wife, and getting to just see these very small, like, they're our person, they're a figure, they're there. And going from that to these two role playing the other one out, I think is, while it is stylistic, it also aids itself to the story in that way.
I would have to agree. I think that makes sense, especially since there is the whole role play element of the movie. I think keeping those characters as much of a mystery as possible helps to keep you, let you stay in the dark a little bit so you don't know what you're watching. Mm-hmm. But essentially, they both have partners that are never around, and they're constantly,
traveling for business and
traveling or making kind of weird excuses. Like, I mean, immediately, like when Chow like calls the office to like get his wife, and the wife's like, her office worker buddy was like, yeah, she left like a while ago. I was like, that bitch be trifling. I was like, I don't know what this is 8 minutes into the movie, but I know this. I smell me a hoe.
I smell me a hoe. Saying, by the way. That's real though. I was like, ooh, uh-oh.
Yeah. You're like, uh-oh.
I already know what's going to happen, and I'm still like, ooh.
But while you're finding that out, while you as an audience member are already, you kind of know, Chow seems to be a little bit, I feel like he's lying to himself a little bit at first, while on the flip side, Sue pretty much figures it out almost immediately, and goes to the room, and basically overhears her husband in the room with Chow's wife.
There's a lot that leads into her, I think, kind of having that discovery, like the conversation with her boss about like getting a gift for someone else, and then his wife wanting to go to dinner with them, and then she notices his new tie, and like you're knowing that she's an observant character from that, but he has that new tie, and then he changes back into the old one that he was wearing, and she's like, oh, why'd you do that? And he says, oh, that's too flashy, I'll stick with my own or whatever. And it's almost like this weird in context has to do about these relationships forming, right? Because he has that moment of shame where he's like, right. So we almost get it from that very scene in and of itself, that like, oh. But Mr. Chow is definitely lying to himself. His buddy said, hey, listen, I seen your wife in the street with a guy.
Can we talk about his buddy? Oh, I have to write what I just want to, I think I wrote, I wrote, has there ever been a bigger disaster of a character on screen? Oh. So he's got this buddy who works with him I mean, when I put works, I'm going to put in quotes because he's never shown doing anything at the journalist office.
Mhm.
But he's there constantly telling stories about like getting drunk, about how he gambled, lost all of his money, said he had $2 left. And then he's like, so I went to the whorehouse, and I was like, $2 for a whore even in the 60s, bro. Woo, that's a gamble.
Mhm.
And then
He said he got some pussy on credit.
yeah, he did say that. He's like, oh, they know me. I'm on credit.
Insane.
And I was like, holy shit, this guy's a disaster. I'm like, why does he hang out with them? And which makes him popping up at the end of this movie. I was like, why? Why would you bring him with you? But anyway, we'll get there.
That's his buddy. That's his buddy.
Who seems to only borrow money for, I guess, to be fair, he was the only one who told him the truth, because as you said, the true purpose of this character, I mean, I guess other than to give Chow someone else to talk to, is more or less to plant the seed in Chow's head, because he said he was out drinking and getting fucked up and whoring around, and he saw Chow's wife with another man, and Chow basically was like, oh, it was probably her friend. And it's like,
Yeah.
But
what kind of friend are we talking about?
yeah, and didn't she tell you that she was doing something else? You know, that kind of, so you as the audience member are like, yeah, come on, Chow.
Mm-hmm. He was there for that, but I also think there's something important about him in the sense of how they deal with relationships, even how they view sex. Obviously, this is someone who's like, yeah, I just got a prostitute. I got some pussy on credit. I did this, blah, blah. Like, I'm chilling. Even when they have this conversation about secrets and mysteries, in the old days, they would carve a hole in a tree, like, and he has this like long-winded conversation. And the other guy's like, screw that. I would just get laid. The fuck?
Yeah.
Which is iconic. And I love that. Like, okay, like what a king. But I think it's almost supposed to show this different type of character, because these two, as far as we know as an audience, do not consummate their relationship. I think that's also a very interesting point to the movie, which I don't know if I love.
No, very frustrating as a viewer, I feel like. All right, let's jump a little further ahead. Okay, so they decide that they've they figure it out. They go to dinner together. She initially stops by and like borrows like a martial arts cereal because she missed an episode or two or something. Somehow that leads to them going to dinner, and then through them figuring out each other's gifts, the purses and the ties, they're able to figure out that okay, they can confirm. Well, she already knew because she heard it in the other room. So she 100%, because she overhears it and like breaks down in the shower crying because she heard her husband having sex with Chow's wife. Chow was lying to himself a little bit more, I feel like, and it wasn't until he could confirm it by figuring out their gift situation. So am I summing that up correctly? Because sometimes, I mean, I'll be honest, this movie is a little jumpy. So
yeah, I didn't know how to interpret some of the stuff with her essentially figuring out. I think in a way she's more attuned to the idea of the social element, because the other characters in the movie do comment on the fact that she's alone. And that she's alone all the time, and that she's fucking lonely and all this stuff. And we don't really get that type of reflection about Chow. Like, he cares about gossip, but it's only like in that way. No one else is like checking in on him and being like, oh my God, are you so sad that your wife is always working? Aw. Like, no one gives a shit.
And I'm wondering, I mean, if that, because if without jumping too far ahead, I feel like, and I wrote a note very quickly, even before he officially admits that he's fallen in love with her, I was like, this dude, like, he was broken up, yeah, and he had his like little sad cigarette in the rain that would have been impossible to smoke because of how much goddamn water was coming down. Like,
no, they had a little thing they were under. They're okay.
He had like there's like, I mean, it's not raining. It's like an ocean of water is being sprayed, like whatever.
It's giving, monsoon season.
But other than like one pensive little moment where he's like outside doing that, I mean, this dude is pretty obviously like, I feel like he never references his wife again for the rest of the movie. And like for the rest of the movie, he's like, I'm in. I like this one, and this one likes to spend time with me. So this is the one that I'm like. Whether or not he was going to admit it, like I don't know if that's just how I perceived it, but I perceived that he much quicker, because I don't know if she ever really does. Spoiler. Moves on, while she kind of, at the very minimum, you could say, takes a while before opening up a bit.
You know, that scene in general gets me on a whole rant, really, because their whole connection and this idea, like where he says, oh, we're no better than them, like these things just like come up and like you have feelings and like you don't expect it, like whatever. His whole like scene with her talking about it is like, I don't know if it's supposed to be a joke or not, because the idea is, I think these two don't have a connection. Can I be honest? I think they are connected to the idea of a connection, right? They love this fantasy. But in reality, what they've been hanging out with for the last month or 2 months, 3 months, however long this movie takes place, who knows for sure in the beginning, is because you do see time pass, but you have no idea necessarily, weeks, months, whatever. They are role-playing each other's spouses, and they're the version of their spouses that they would want, like the one that's spending time with them and the one that's invested in them. And there's this like weird blend, but most of the scenes that we see them in, they're exemplifying some type of quality that the other spouse had. So it's almost like they were falling back in love with their spouses in a way. And also the other problem that I have with that scene is that these two, if you want to take that aside for a second and think about these two falling in love, and they fall in love essentially almost over the idea of being different than their cheating spouses, right? They think of themselves as like, we're not going to go to their level. We're not going to do this. We're not going to blah, blah, blah. And they have this foundation over falling in love with each other for being this type of person. And the irony is they can never consummate that or truly fall in love, because that would destroy their entire foundation, because they would become the people that they just said they weren't like. And that's why they fell in love. And it's just this like horrible clash.
I agree with so much, but I also disagree. Because I will say it did not dawn on me until the end of the movie, which I mean, I don't know how I'm not going to go to the spoiler for like the exact end, but like it did not dawn on me to the end of the movie. I believe, or till I was researching, that I don't think that they were in love. I think he was in love. And I think that she was not, and that because it did not dawn on me until the end of the movie, you know, when I really started to think about it, that I mean, obviously she's the one who prevents them from being together repeatedly. But like, I think he was in love, and I'll volley you something here. I understand, because we got to talk about the insanity of what they even do. We haven't even got into the idea of like how fucking nuts it is to be like, we're gonna role play how our
how our cheating husband and
our loved ones started fucking. Like that's crazy.
That's insane. Actually,
please, let's put a big old pin in that. And to the degree of which they do it, but like. I would say there is there is time there. It is shown that they are spending time together outside of just the role play. I mean, specifically, they keep showing like that she is coming over and helping him with his write his cereal. They're spending all this time together, and that way she's caring for him when she's sick, but although doing it from afar, you know, she's not delivering the honey, whatever the fuck it was, the drink he wanted. She made it for the whole building, and the whole building got some, but she did it for him. I mean, I do feel like there was enough shown of them actually being together as themselves that I can, at the end of the film, buy that he loves her based on his actions. And at the end of the day, I think he was a distraction for her.
Can I throw something at you real quick?
You can throw anything you want at me.
I'm hearing you, but I also almost fear that you're forgetting an element about her, and that, like, if you want to go that route, and it's not this connection sustaining them, or it is, they're in love. There is a true love bond here, either from him to her or both, whatever.
Mm.
Her number one fear and what holds them back a lot is the idea, right, that their spouse found someone else, that they weren't enough. There is this fear there that she has. And I think you could interpret it that she did love him as well. I mean, she ends up going, and they miss their connections, but she ends up going to basically see him and take her fucking slippers back, which is crazy. And having that scene.
Serial killer behavior.
Okay. Well, they write serials together, so let's remember that. But,
Okay.
but I think she does have that overwhelming feeling and that urge. And if I'm going to interpret it that he was in love with her, I would argue that I think she's just as in love with him, but she has this not overreaction. She has a very emotional reaction to the affair and there being another woman, and like that whole concept being a thing. And she's very locked into that idea about it. It's not just that her husband was not loyal. It's that there's another woman. Like, I'm not enough woman. I'm not enough this. And I think that's why they end up on purpose not on purpose. The universe puts them not missing each other at the end, to have that kind of feeling, because she has that fear.
I think she misses those stuff. I think she misses some stuff on purpose.
Sure, but I would probably say that's because of her fear of not being enough to anyone, you know?
I mean,
and that doesn't necessarily mean there's an absence of love. I just think the fear is bigger.
I don't know how that could be. Did you see her ass in that dress, Blue? I think she was fine.
Yes, I fucking did. I was like, whoo-wee.
I really wish I could show you. It's my third note. I wrote, Sue is gorgeous. And then I drew a big arrow because it was her walking up the stairs. And I wrote, ass shot. Big thumbs up. Car or one car wide.
That's an insane thing to say, but that's real as fuck.
I mean, I think you want to show that, like, she is an attractive woman. She clearly is one of the most famous. I looked that up. She's like one of them, like you said, one of the most famous Chinese actresses of all time. But so, I mean, just to add a little levity to a very bleak movie, I do got to be like, I mean, hey, it was intention. He frames everything, and he put that ass right on frame.
As he should. As he should. No, yeah. I mean, she's obviously a gorgeous woman, and I don't think it always translates in the way of even being physically insecure. Though I would say, I mean, unfortunately, it does seem like the most beautiful women alive are the most insecure. But there's an element of other things, like the reason why she's sitting there and they're ordering meals that the other one's like husband or wife might eat. And she's asking so many questions. Like, Mr. Chow just kind of goes along with it. He's just kind of like, cool, whatever. And like, you know, oh, what would your husband eat? And then she's very much like, what is this? You're going to have to order for me. Does she like spicy food? Does she like this? And she is very interested in every single minute detail in that regard.
I think she wants to learn about the woman who stole her man.
Exactly. And I think that's proof of I feel like I'm not enough woman, or I'm not the type of woman that a man would desire, or like whatever specific sentences in her head.
What do they have that I don't have? Or
exactly. Yeah. And I like that it doesn't translate to a physical, because she is a beautiful woman, and that's, you know, not why people cheat. So
yeah, no, I'm not. Definitely, I agree. I'm just throwing some fun out there, but also, you know, I appreciate a good ass.
She's cheeked up.
I appreciate a good ass. What can I say?
Yeah, there was a couple shots where it's like, you didn't have to do that, but thanks.
But thank you, because it keeps my attention going. All right, but this whole insane, because the true premise of the movie, I feel like, is built on this role playing that they do, which is entirely her idea. So once they find out, they decide to start role playing as each other's spouse, as to quote unquote, she says, like, basically, so we can figure out how this happened. And very quickly, he's like going along with it. And I'm like, how did this happen? I mean, what do you mean? Like, you weren't happy. Like, case closed. Like, what do you fucking think the answer was? It's one of two. You weren't happy, or he wanted to get his dick wet. It's either one or two. So which one you pick one? But then they like go on this, and it's not like, oh, we're just gonna do like a role play. I mean, this goes on for weeks. I mean, months. You said presumably. We don't know how fucking long it is, and the level that they go through this role play at is, like you said, insane. Like they're eating what the other one tells them to eat at dinner because that's what the other one's spouse would have actually had. Like there's a scene where she's eating a steak and he like plops some like spicy mustard down, fucking ruining a steak, by the way. But and she's like, and so she starts dipping it in there, and clearly she does not actually like spicy food. At least that's how I took it. But she's like going through with it just so she can like keep the role play up. So I'm like, you're a fucking psycho. Like, it's a wild premise.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, right? It's like watching these two try and figure it out, but also come to a realization, like obviously they weren't attracting their spouses anymore. There is like an element of that in the movie. And the idea of them becoming the other one's spouse is just so like, I think you're almost supposed to be like, that's pathetic.
I mean, it is. It is. Like, because you as a viewer are watching them going like, listen, they don't like being together. You two are gorgeous. Be together.
See, I don't want them together though. I don't think I want that.
Well, I will actually agree because upon reflection, I will say I wanted them to be together. But upon reflection, I'm blaming this all on her. The woman's fault. No, I'm sure.
Right. Thank you for listening to the last episode.
No, but I mean, upon reflection, like once you really start to think about it, and I do think that they weren't together. And plus, if they were together, you wouldn't get what I actually thought was a pretty great ending, minus one weird thing. But yeah. But a huge part of this that we kind of touched on, but I feel like we really need to stress for the audience who I guarantee has never heard of this, because I hadn't, Blue, is that this is a movie with someone who is extremely talented in how he edits and presents things. And the editing in this movie it's done so quickly and so fast that you a lot of times are intentionally, you are being shown something and you're not sure if it's, because you'll be like, oh, okay, this is them having a conversation, and then it will cut, and then you'll realize, oh wait, no, that was them having a conversation, but as the role-playing spouses. So you're kind of always questioning what you're seeing, which I thought was an interesting thing. But like the editing is so fast. Like there's a scene where she literally comes over and is like, oh, they're talking about his cereal that he wants to write. It cuts. The scene is 6 seconds long. Cut to she's coming back to the house again, and now they're writing the cereal. And I was like, holy shit, that was like that was fast.
Yeah, I almost like think of it as like he's trying to write from the main character's memories. Like it's a nostalgic love.
So who's the main? Are we writing from?
Well, I'm saying Mr. Chow, because he ends with his like, with his like scene and whatnot, which I'm curious if that's what you're gonna talk about. But it ends with that scene, and that, like, I almost think of it as like a reflection. Like, what secret did he tell? And is that the whole movie? And it's remembered in fragments, and it's remembered in a series of short memories,
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think of it that way.
I mean, the editing is really good. You can have it any type of way, but that's how I think it's like. He's the king of vibes, Wong Kar-wai. He loves vibes. He loves a mood. He just loves a vibe. He's so good at building specifically a vibe.
I mean,
which is what is like, it's almost like dreamlike in a sense. You're like watching a memory through like a foggy glass or something, and you're like, yeah, okay, like that's his style. But I think of it as in that, like, I think of it as his reflections and his story that he, his secret.
I don't want to say what I thought his secret was.
What?
It's my secret, Blue. I'm gonna go dig a hole and.
Who's got a fat ass? Yeah, okay, it's not a fucking secret. We've seen it.
The world knows that, okay?
Yeah, that's not news, babe.
I honestly, because I really, again, this is a movie, and I may watch this again at some point. This isn't something that 9 extra minutes coming out. What did you say in the tree? I honestly, I surface level. I watched it surface level. I'm going to be very open here, and probably shows how dumb my brain is. I just realized I thought I was just like, oh, he's just telling the story, or he's either telling the story of the entirety of what happened, and that's kind of his secret, is that he wanted to fuck this guy's wife, or it was that I literally was like, he went up there and was like, I love her.
And then boop, closure.
But I think that you're probably more accurate in your depiction of it, maybe being a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and that's why there's so many moments missing. And, that it's part of Wong Kar-wai style, though. He's very, I don't want to say dreamlike, but it is very like nostalgic. You're remembering something, and you get this like human truth in his unrealistic timelines and these scenes and whatnot, and you just see this progression, and it's supposed to be how you remember life, I would guess, is how I would say it. And he's just trying to show like yearning, desire, all these things, and what that looks like in that frame. So I think it's fine to interpret it a bunch of ways, but that's what I thought.
All right. Well, I got a question for you here. Here. All right. Act 1, we're gonna say it's mostly them hanging out in the apartment. And sure. They're still trying to hide that they're even like friends. So they're doing it while like the rest of the friends or the rest of the apartments, people are getting drunk and playing mahjong and yada yada yada. But eventually they decide, or they basically make the decision, or a decision is made by Chow gets a hotel. And I would say that's really where we start Act 2 of the movie, in my personal opinion. And I'm saying that because there is obviously a location change, but something that I really want your thoughts on, because I know you look for this in movies. Red becomes an immediate theme from that point going forward. I mean, the walls are red, the carpets are red, the drapes are red in this weird fucking hotel that they're at. And I'm like, does that stand for lust, for passion, or now yearning? What do you think?
Yeah, there's an intensity there. I don't know if I want to call it love. I think there's a temperature element. I think there's a reason why the movie takes place in summer. I think there's a reason that like red would be considered like a color usually associated with hot or warmer temperatures, hot water, these type of things. I think it's probably fine to, consider it. Yeah. I love passion. Maybe just passion would be something to say. Yearning would not be bad. I mean, they do use a lot of blue green, like kind of shades when they're guilty or when they're
horniness,
having these like, well, they're having these like, these complicated feelings. And then the color scenes will like shift in that too. So yeah, I would say it's at minimum supposed to be a shroud for morality in a way. Like they're not doing anything technically wrong. We don't know if they ever do anything right in this hotel room. That's the implication when a man and a woman show up at a hotel room together, and apparently in the extended cut they get their freak on, but that's unrelated. But I think it's almost like I think lust is probably a good way to describe it, or yearning, the idea of somebody and then falling into that, and that's the overwhelming color story.
It's kind of wild to me. Obviously, we're reviewing the current cut of it. It's kind of wild to me that they would hook up in another version. Not wild that because I read the same thing. I read that like apparently there was like several sex scenes that were filmed, and it was like a lot more graphic. And then they were like, and then Wong Kar
Wai.
Wong Kar Wai was like, I got that in the bank now. I can take that home. But like, and he made it a PG movie instead. But I feel like from all of the plot synopsises I read and that I was also like thinking about like myself, I feel like if you see them consummate their whatever there is, their relationship, whether it's love or lust or whatever, I feel like that instantly is going to change the movie in like a major way, as opposed to where it stands, that I think makes a lot more sense. You know, and like I feel like him being like, at least in my eyes, how I interpreted it, like him being like, I loved her, I went to bat, I swung as hard as I could, and she said no, like, but he still always is going to have that piece in him that's like, you know, but what if, but if you take that away, and they actually did, I feel like now the ending changes completely.
There are pros and cons to it. I get not including it, right? There is an element of that, like unrequited, and that will they, won't they, even for them, and like having this what is there an edge to their fantasy, because they're like doing this weird fantasy role play thing of the other spouses. Is there an edge to that where they do cross the line? Is there that much chemistry there to get them there? There's a lot of pros in showing it and not showing it. The only thing that I will say, I think I would like if that scene was in the movie. I think it could be interesting for these two to, not that it's right, but it would be a very interesting portrayal for these two to discover they're being cheated on, and then to have this insane sociopathic curiosity about why that happened. And then this element of falling in love and crossing the line, implying they're really not different from the people that they married, I think would be really interesting to explore.
Do you also think how weird that would be, though, with what this movie shows them do, and almost any scene that doesn't involve them hanging out, like talking about comic or serials, they're always playing with the role play aspect. That could be a really fucking weird scene where it's like, no, my husband wouldn't fuck me like this. He would do it like that. And then like, you know, or, you know, oh, she would be more submissive, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, I'm just saying, I feel like that would, I'm personally going with, I'm glad it's not in the movie. Now, if it's in the 9-minute extended cut, I might, you know, give it a little
take a look.
Yeah.
I like
scientific
it.
purposes.
I think it blends. I would like it if they portrayed it and there was like, it was kind of smoky, like that scene where they have that confrontation and she's like, I thought I was the only one that knew. And then there's cigarette smoke like floating up and this mixture, like just seeing that as a scene visibly, like having that
single cigarette that's made like
8 million
like,
clouds. Yes. I think that having that involved in that sex scene and almost like symbolically showing their energies mixed together. Because in that scene, that's right when we get that connection. And that's when we start to see them on screen at the same time. And I think having that weird blend of where does my husband and my cheating husband and cheating wife end and where do I begin is really good to play with. And I think that it'd be like that confusion even from them, it would be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, I'm not saying it wouldn't be interesting. I'm just I feel like changes the ending a bit for me, at least because this is the type of movie. Like, if it sounds like we're sometimes struggling to say how this is a type of movie that you can't just watch and go like, if you're just watching and like just visibly like not thinking about what's going on or putting yourself in that same shoes, this movie's going to be probably fucking boring as shit. But if you're trying to like empathize with the characters and like and really think about it, I think this is one of those movies that like if you put 5 people in a room, all 5 of them would have a different interpretation, and like all of them valid probably.
It's definitely a movie you have to experience. You can't just it doesn't work like a traditional plot. It doesn't. And that's why you just have to watch it. You have to watch it and experience it.
So you're saying plot isn't necessary.
The plot is forgotten memories. And that's why it's shot like that. Is how I think of it, at least. But
well,
I think they should fuck.
I mean, I think they should for the sake of like,
I think they should be in love.
you said you don't think that.
I go back and forth.
I wanted them to be together, 100%. But I think it's a better movie that they're not. Like,
Yeah,
would I have
agree.
left happier and been like, that was a nice movie? I will say, for a movie called In the Mood for Love, not a lot of fucking love. Not a lot of love.
Yeah, but they're in the mood for love. They're not in love, which is also part of the.
The most we get is a singular handhold.
He hugs her. She cries. There's a lot happening there.
Yeah, but she wasn't in love with him then. She's just crying because she's whining about her shitty husband.
No, she's crying about breaking up their affair. That's like when their affair, like fake affair thing ends. And then she's like,
Okay, so she ends the affair. But again, at first you can't tell if she actually is. Well, that's not their affair. She's ending their friendship or whatever they're doing. But you first are like, you think they're doing the role play. All right. We're now in the third act of this movie. And this is where this thing starts rolling like a fucking coffin on roller skates downhill.
Okay,
I was like, sick. I literally I paused it and I was like, there is 22 minutes left. I'm like, there's only 22 minutes left of this movie. I'm like, that's an episode of a sitcom. And he's like, now like talking, he's like, well, guess I'm taking a job in Singapore. And I was like, you're gonna go to Singapore with 22 minutes left in this movie? Okie doke. I'm like, you guys haven't even kissed or anything. Me being stupid, thinking In the Mood for Love, they might be in the mood for some fucking love.
No, not that kind of love.
So he goes to Singapore, takes his little drunken buddy. Don't know what they're doing there. I presume I would like to think in a movie that would set up the fact that he has a dream of being a serial column writer, that's what he's actually doing now, but whatever. He's there while he's out at the bar or dinner or whatever. She secretly, in like a serial killer, flies to Singapore, does not tell him that she is. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. First, he admits to her that he loves her. She rejects him, essentially. He says,
he kind of does it for her. He said, you'll never leave your husband.
I know you'll never leave your husband, so I have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, if you change your mind, I'm going to Singapore. Come with me. He waits for her. She doesn't show up. She ends up showing up, but after he's already left, she hangs out in his room for a little bit. He still has her slippers, which is important. It's the only item she ever left in his room. Now he's in Singapore. All that shit just happened. She flew there like a serial killer. Did not tell him she was coming. Breaks into his room.
It's open.
Weird.
I'll give you it's creepy. I'll give you, hypothetically. If it was maybe out of perspective, it'd be a little weird.
I'm just saying he didn't know or give her permission to be in the room. So
right,
I would say that by definition, I would call that breaking and entering. But
I guess, and for love,
she goes into his room. He smokes this entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
She has never been shown to smoke. She finds one of his cigarettes. She smokes it, puts it in the ashtray, takes her slippers back, just somehow knows what bar or whatever he's at, calls the bar, gets him on the phone, and then she just listens and doesn't say anything and then hangs the phone up. Thoughts?
So she's what sparks their relationship. She's the one that questions on screen, I wonder how it started. And so it's kind of symbolic that she would light that cigarette, smoke it, and then put it out herself because she's also the one not leaving her husband. It's kind of a fun little metaphor.
See, I didn't get the metaphor, and I still don't really, even with the explanation.
I also like that it's just proof that she had been there. As simple.
Yeah, I didn't get the unless you can. Is it her putting the cigarette out was officially extinguishing the relation? My just thing is, why do you fly all the way to another fucking country and then be like, you know what? And then I'm going to stalk him, find out what bars he likes to hang out at, call him. And I'm like, in my head, again, I know that, again, for the movie to be good, they can't be together. But I'm like, you clearly have something here going on. Like, maybe you should hash it out a little bit. Like, you know, people who are happy in relationships aren't flying up to another country secretly against like, and also it's 3 or 4 years later. And actually, I believe it's been that she is no longer with her husband based upon what the neighbor says to Chow, but she has a kid too. So there's also that. I don't understand.
I like to interpret that she is still with her husband, but that he's just the same person and that he's going and working a lot and doing that. Like the people staying in that apartment are a woman and her son because he's gone for 2 to 4 weeks at a time. And I like to think that she settled.
You're right. You're right. All right. Yeah.
That's how I would interpret it. I think it's fine to interpret it otherwise, but no, I think
you're 100%. No, I think you're 100% right. Yes, she's only a woman and her son live there because he's always still gone. You're right. All right. So the rule stands. You're right.
I'm hardly ever wrong, Sam. Hardly ever wrong.
Then, well, I'm gonna give it to you on this one. I think you're right there.
I will say taking the slippers is a little diabolical.
Yeah.
That's a little strange.
Just hurt him. She
walked her way out of that man's life.
Yeah, she flew across the globe. I don't know. It's not.
I don't think it's that far.
But yeah, there was a passport involved.
There was an inconvenience involved.
There was a flight, maybe a boat trip. I don't know. There was some sort of trip. I got to assume she didn't know that he had the slippers. Like, I have to assume that there was part of her that wanted to, like, obviously find him and, like, be together. But then again, I'm going to stand by. I don't think she was in love with him. I think he was in love with her. That's how I'm choosing to interpret the movie. And it's sad.
I don't know. I honestly think I'm still processing it. I watched this yesterday and I'm still processing. That's why I go back and forth. And I'm like, they were in love. And I'm like, actually, they weren't in love. They loved the idea of love. I go back and forth between it because you can interpret it in so many ways. This movie is poetry, essentially, visual poetry. But I don't know. Maybe it's because, I'm non-binary, but I was raised as a woman. I was socialized as a woman. Something about her emotions when she returns to the apartment building, and like how emotional she was over that. And again, her flying to fucking or taking a boat or whatever she does to get to Singapore. That is like absolutely insane. And I think there is a fear and a coyness that I don't think would show. If I believe that they're in love, then I think they're both equally in love.
Okay.
I think he's a stronger person than she is.
Because he admits it?
Right. And also, like, I think a plethora of other reasons. I think him and his wife, obviously, gone. The minute she sends him a letter, basically from Japan, he's like, all right, whatever. Is how I interpreted it.
I think he moved on pretty quick. He was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, because he almost didn't, I don't want to say this, but he didn't take it personal. I think she took it personal on the basis of like who she was. And that's where this fear of not being enough gets her. And I think that she has that same fear if she pursues this any more than what it is. And it is like she's fighting with herself. She's fighting, should she show up to the hotel? And then like she does, but like, is she too late on purpose? Is she too late on accident? Like what's going on there? And then she stays there for a while and she's in tears and she's thinking about this life. Even when she goes and sees this guy's place, she like has the slippers on for a minute and like she smokes and she's like feels how it is. And there is that like anxiety and fear in her that it doesn't negate from the idea for her being as in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's just weak.
And I would say there's again,
I'm carrying around that fat ass all the time. Hey, knee slapper. There you go.
Cheek slapper. I think again, because I think this is a movie that is designed, like you said, it's probably closer to like visual poetry. It's definitely going to be different. Everyone's going to, view it differently person to person, and you probably in a very unique stance, or not unique, but more so unique than the average, with you being non-binary, but you having the raised in the female perspective, you maybe you can kind of navigate their waters a little differently than I can, while I can only really look at it from his perspective. And I'll be honest with you, from his perspective, if I saw this movie in 2000, I was too young, but like if I saw this movie in like high school, this would have been emo up. I'd been like, she's a bitch. Why don't you just be with him? He's such a good man. I'm not okay. Like I could easily see. So I do see it from his perspective, and there is a little bit of me that is like, but like.
And I respect that, and I think there maybe even is an element of that to it, but she isn't stronger than public opinion, and she isn't stronger than this. Like, she's very polite. She carries herself a certain type of way. She wants people to perceive her a certain type of way. She doesn't want to be a burden. She doesn't want to be a burden on her neighbor. She doesn't want to eat their food, even though like they want her to fucking join her. She says, hey, we got to cool it. We can't hang out as much. Like people are starting to gossip. And then she gets told by one of the ladies, hey, have fun, but not too much fun. Be careful. And like just having all of the scenes I've seen her character in are she doesn't take up space, and she doesn't want to, and she's uncomfortable even with the idea of it. She's uncomfortable with that. She definitely falls victim to public opinion, and I think that is what holds her back. And I think seeing that and knowing, like, I do think there's a symbolism in the fact that like we know, we can extrapolate, I guess, the character, Mr. Chow's friend. If he had been like, hey, I'm in love with my neighbor, he would have been like, fuck yeah, cool.
Oh yeah, he would have been like go tap it.
Yes. Whereas like her only like friend, which is what this like landlady is to her in a way, is the one chastising her and telling her, don't have too much fun. Even when she wants to cook for him inadvertently because he's sick, she wants to make the sesame syrup for him. She does it under the guise of, well, it's for everybody in this. Like, she is fundamentally a weak person. Even when she role plays the conversation with her husband, where she's like role playing with him about how her husband would react to that, and her almost pitiful, like she just kind of sits there and she kind of does a little whatever.
The worst slap of all time.
Yeah.
Like,
to which like yeah, to which like he's like, girl, what? Like, you gotta really let him have it. Because he's in love with her, and so I'm sure that plays into it in that scene if I'm interpreting it that way. And she doesn't. And she's just not that person. And I also know, small point, it's a very short movie, so I don't know. But she has this child, and the child seems to come out of nowhere. Like, it does not establish that that Sue and her husband are like new to marriage, that they are like newlyweds or this. It's never a thing. They don't have kids. So she's left alone hypothetically for years, which seems to be fine. And then all of a sudden we get this child character in it when that was never a conversation at any point in the movie. And again, part of me is like, social pressure, expectations, the expectations in this type of world, right? Like, as far as like, what is the culture at Hong Kong in the 60s around that, around like leaving your husband, or falling in love with the neighbor, or like all of these things, or even choosing to be childless for too long. Like, what are the social implications of that? And she tries. I think she genuinely tries, but I don't think she's strong enough at the end of the day. I think her weakness is it overpowers, her love.
And I mean, I do agree a lot. I mean, the social pressure on her is exactly, I mean, it's frustrating how much, again, culturally, I don't know what the culture was like in the 60s of China. I don't know what the culture is totally like over there now. So like, but like as a viewer today, I'm like, you are like, who gives a shit? Like, who gives a shit? Tell him to fuck off. Go fuck him right now in that room. And who cares if the whole goddamn place hears it? Like,
I think that's very American of us, though, to feel. I think that's our bringing our cultural biases to it. Because I agree. I'm like, literally confront this man, confront him in front of everyone, slap him, push him off the fucking building. Like,
you want to be like, tell this one to fuck off and go suck that one's dick. Like, it's like, you're gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just not gonna happen. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is frustrating to watch, but that's again having some fun with it there, obviously.
Yes.
But yes, no, I agree with everything you said. Like, I mean, this is obviously the societal pressure is I think a large portion, if not maybe the entire thing. I don't know how you want to look at it, of what holds her back from going forward with the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I think even the conversation with his buddy, who's like going and talking to prostitutes and doing all this and this type of thing.
$2 hookers.
Getting pussy on credit is crazy.
Yeah.
But just living in a world where that person is,
that's probably why he flew to Singapore. He had to get away from him. They owed him too much.
Hey, fuck it. He might have had to go. He might have had to go for other reasons. But even having that level of freedom presented in the movie of like, no one really, like, everyone knows this guy's kind of like, whatever, but he can just do that. And he can get pussy on credit. And meanwhile, they're watching Sue. They're watching her at every fucking turn.
Yeah.
If she has the idea of liking another man, they're like, you're married. Your husband should be at home. You should keep an eye on him. Meaning he should keep an eye on you.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that is part of it.
I hate that.
Me too, because I wanted them to be together. I genuinely was like, they're gonna get together, right? Like, they have to. Like,
Blue wouldn't have recommended a movie without a happy ending, right?
I was like, this was pitched to me as a romance movie to make up for the horrible romance movie that you made me endure before. So I'm like, this is gonna be like good, right? And it is good, but let's move on here because we're just about done with this can of worms here.
Yes.
I mean, truthfully, the final, unless I'm missing anything, is once she leaves and steals the slippers, unless I'm totally missing something, we cut to him I'm presuming he's still in Singapore. I don't truthfully know. It could have been China.
He ends up in Cambodia at the end with
Cambodia. Okay. Yeah. He ends up at like a monk temple. He finds a little hole in the wall, and he speaks his secret into it. It then cuts to the hole with like a clod of grass like shoved into it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's just stylistically, I'm going to be honest. This was my my least favorite part of the movie. I think it should have just ended on the shot of the wall with the clod of dirt in it. Then for some reason, we get like 5 minutes of like, look at this beautiful Cambodian temple. And I was like, who gives a shit? Like, that's not what this movie was about.
Okay, but like, is it not though, a little bit? Because, okay, hear me out. In the original story that he tells us about this hiding secrets thing, he talks about people going up into mountains and carving it into trees. And there's something symbolic, I think, to think he didn't fucking do that. It would have been much easier to find a fucking tree. Why is he in Cambodia? Why is he out here in religious ruins, or at least like some type of active temple? We see a monk there. We don't know. I like to interpret that as God witnessing their story, but that's a whole other thing.
Look at the big brain on you.
I'm like, nothing's really secret. You see, okay, got it, cool. And also the way that it's shot, kind of like again shows us like we're the observers in the scene. So the theme is really consistent all the way through. But I think there's something so powerful about that level of reverence that he would have had for her to be in that location at that time. And I think you almost need like some stylistic shots. It's beautiful as well, but you need some stylistic shots of like to understand the reverence that he had for her at the end. I also like that the dirt that he puts in that hole to seal that secret is Like you can tell he like ripped out some grass and put that there. I don't know if it's maybe a thing that I'm reading too much into, but I think that's something powerful that like in the original story, you're carving a hole in a tree and you're covering it with mud, and he's covering it with something that grows, and that's like almost leaves it open to another movie, which I know it does have another, like these characters do show up later, so there's a whole thing. But I think there's a symbolism to the location, the monk in that shot, and the actual like little bit of mud, dirt that's
So
also grass.
I'm gonna give you the monk, because
Mhm.
that makes sense, because it was weird that there was only one monk and they didn't even acknowledge each other. So you could perceive it as that he couldn't see the monk because the monk is God or an angel or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Something other.
Another observer.
Yes. I also enjoyed, and I don't know why I enjoyed it, but because when he tells the story, at least in my head, the way I believe he said you cover it with mud or clay. Like, so I'm expecting him to like grab something and just kind of smooth it over like you would do like a smooth brick wall, you know? Instead, it's just like loose dirt with grass just like sticking out the wall, which I liked that. And I don't know why, really. Maybe something resonated with me, like you said, but it because it wasn't what I was expecting and what was really said earlier, it makes me think that it meant something. I don't know if I understand what it means, but it meant something. But I will truthfully say, I guess if you want to go with the preceding 3 or 4 minutes of just like showing you shots of this Cambodian temple, I didn't get that part, I guess, unless you would like to really show like, oh, he loved her so much. To get over her, he essentially had to go on a journey. I guess you could go with that, but like, I felt like I could interpret that already based on the entirety of the rest of the movie. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but yeah, I just think it was definitely an interesting style choice. Even from the busyness of like busy, hectic, cramped apartment building Hong Kong versus there, and being in such a natural, maybe spiritual place, and how different that is. I think there's something probably to be said there.
All right, if we're going through interpretations, you just sparked one in my mind. Is there anything to it that the preceding rest of the movie is like it's all in cramped little apartment buildings, cramped little hotel rooms? It's pretty much, or on like these oddly desolate, like shitty little streets that are like just always covered in rain. And then the end of the movie, he's out in the open. You're getting wide shots of like the, you know, this beautiful temple and the mountains and everything. I'm just saying, I don't know if there's anything to that, but I feel like that could be something that you could probably like look into.
Yeah, I think each element would kind of exist separately, depending. Like, I'm not saying all of these have the strongest basis, but I do think the rain plays an important element in the fact that, like, when they, like, the timing that they pass each other in the noodle shop, being able, like, and having that connection, having their conversation under the rain when he finally confesses his feelings to her, and certain scenes in that you see that he's willing to get wet and play ball, so to speak, and she's not, and she doesn't want the heat when he comes back with the fucking umbrella either. So that could play an element too. But I think the rain's for two things. I think it's to show the summertime feeling. It's not a traditional summertime love type of movie, but it has that element to it. All of his movies do, it seems, in this like trilogy at least. Days of Being Wild, it also has a very strong summer theme. So there's a lot there, which I don't know if it's intentional or not, or maybe it's just good to film. I don't know. But the heat, the humidity, that I think that plays a part. I think the cramped location, like as far as the apartment building, is also to give us context with how closely these people live their lives, how closely you are observed at all times. Like if your door's open, if this, right? That's also in a sense like a character in the movie. Is that, and it's like almost forcing these characters to be in this like tight proximity with each other, and again, will they, won't they energy. Like I think there's ways to interpret every single one of those things, but I do think the rain is something to be said there in terms of timing and when they talk to each other and when they have these passing glances, at least at first, and then it comes full circle with their scene at the end where she's She's not willing to muddy her reputation. She's not willing to get wet in the rain. She's not willing to do anything of that nature.
She doesn't change anything.
No.
So you know what? You're a smart cookie.
I know a few things. I got a couple things up here.
It's fun to see the things that I completely missed. Like when you were discussing, obviously you're pitching a lot of different, things that might mean, but like, it didn't even click in my head that like, he's always getting just absolutely fucking pissed on by the rain. And then she is like standing back and is safe and dry, and even when
she waits for the storm to pass.
And even when he offers her a way to get out and stay dry, she still says no.
Both would muddy her reputation. Both would show her as imperfect. He's willing to go through it. She is not. She says she's not willing to leave her husband. She literally waits for the storm to pass.
Yeah.
She says it's going to be a while, and she waits. And he says,
This woman is not well. Okay, let's just be real here.
No, I get it.
This is some erratic behavior.
I get it. It just, that whole conversation makes so much sense for them because he's offering her a way out. He's offering her a way out of the relationship. He's offering her a way out of the rain. And she says no, basically. And then she's going to wait it out. So she's waiting out the storm, like how she's waiting out her shitty relationship with her husband. And then he says, oh, well, I'm going to wait here with you. Like what he's doing right now before he leaves to Singapore. Like,
yeah, no, the levels, I didn't even remotely pick up on it. I was just like, and it's right. I mean, I'm sorry. That's, if someone else tells me that interpretation is wrong, fuck you. No, it's not. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Wong Kar-wai is like, actually, that's not why I put that there.
And I'm like, you know what, Wong, shut up. Okay.
Goofy. But yeah, that's very much how I took it. Man, what a good movie.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately at the end, I mean, I that's the end of the movie. Credits. I did really enjoy it. I mean, there's enough on screen to keep you interested at all times. It's not super long. If you're into anything that we've listened or heard us talk about, like it, and even if like you might be like, oh, maybe this sounds too artsy fartsy, it's really not. I think you could enjoy this on a base level too. If you're into like melodramas, but I think there's a lot. This is a movie that I think is pretty easily digestible with it. And then if you sit and think about it or have someone like I have to talk to about it, you start to go like, oh shit, there's a lot of layers to this onion.
Yeah, it's wonderful in a movie because I do think, and not to hark on Nosferatu for too long, right? But that director does tend to be no. He does tend to have that kind of energy of like there's an element that he almost like mocks you if you don't understand. There is like an intellectual elitism, and we talked about that already with that movie. I think there's a way to interpret it without it, but like it's fucking there. Like, okay, we've seen your little old English bullshit. Okay, we get it. And I think this movie is the perfect example of, do you have to watch any of his other movies? No. Do you have to understand politically what's going on in Hong Kong at the time? No. Do you have to understand anything about their relationship, like prerequisite? No. Like you can enjoy it on a completely surface level, or you can take it 100% artsy bullshit. The smoke means something, like this type of blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't take away from either person's perception of the movie. And that is masterful. That level of control on two very different wavelengths. Whoo!
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and to be honest with you, I think if you like this kind of movie, people who are like, or even if you gave it a shot and you have buddies or friends that you can just sit and talk with, like we're doing, like you're probably like, I enjoy the movie more now than I did 3 hours ago when I watched it because of this conversation. Like it was fun to sort of unwrap it together, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like the more I think about that movie, the more it grows and the more it stays in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, and then just to briefly touch on it, because I feel like you disrespected him. I think Wong Kar-wai or Kai, what the fuck is his name?
Why?
Wong Kar-wai would beat the shit out of Robert Eggers. All right, that's all I want to say.
Okay. All right, buddy. You listen here. I'm gonna let that comment slide, but I guess it's time to do maybe like a rating then. If we give it I think we give Nosferatu and Terrifier 2 some star rankings.
We gave.
What do we give this?
We gave both respectively.
I think
each
it was a
other's
2.
movie. I gave Nosferatu a 2, and you gave Terrifier 2 a 2.
Mm-hmm.
So this is below Terrifier for me.
Okay. Interesting.
Here's what I will say. If I'm being honest, I enjoy, because that's just my right down the middle, my kind of pulpy movie. This is a better movie. I mean, there's no fucking question about it, which is a better movie. That doesn't mean that, I'm gonna, enjoyment level, but I don't know. This is my first foray into this gentleman's movies, and definitely this country's movies like this.
Mm-hmm.
For what it is, because I that's what I always want to go. Because if we're gonna create this, and I might cut this part out, are we gonna have how do you want to rate them? Do you want to rate them like this is the scale? It's a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, whatever, and it stays the same, or are we rating it on did they accomplish what they are trying to accomplish? You know what I mean?
I'm rating it the same way I would rate it on Letterboxd.
Okay, so we're doing 5 stars.
I'm doing my personal, if you tap into the fact that, we watch a political drama and you tap into the politics of it, I don't think it should be graded on that necessarily. It can, but I think that's up to the individual's interpretation of the movie and then their enjoyment. So I feel like it reflects that. And it's just organic, whatever you'd put on Letterboxd type moment.
I am between 2 numbers right here. I'm between 3 3/4 and 4.
Bro goes 1 and 1.5.
No, yeah, 1. No, I'm between.
They don't kiss. What the fuck?
I'm between 3/4 and 4. I think I was probably closer to 3/4 before the conversation, but now after the conversation, I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna give it 4 stars.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
I don't know. I think I want to, in my heart, give this a 4.5. I don't think I do, though. I think Days of Being Wild is a 4.5 for me. I think this might be a 4. I definitely remember enjoying this movie slightly less than that one, though I'm curious about 2046, because this one is considered, I believe, one of his best ones. So I am getting different enjoyment levels out of some of his different work, and I look forward to more in the future. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably more of a 4. I want to give it a 4.5 on its technical aspect. It is truly a marvel. When people put this on a list of top 100 movies of all time, I'm yeah, no, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But it's not a 5 for me. There's some things I would like to have maybe more concrete. There's some things that I would like to see and like to have, or maybe while I like to infer from the texts and scenes and dialogue and this blah blah, I do like to have some reinforcement of that. I didn't really get that, which is the point. I think that's his style, so that's fine. But I think 4 out of 5 is what I'm going to give it to, which is an annoying thing because I just realized you gave Nosferatu a 2, and then I gave Terrifier 2 a 2 as well. So I'm just copying whatever answer you give, I think.
So Blue's just a poser.
Actually, I don't even like movies that much. Whatever you say, Sam. whatever you say.
Yeah, no, I think that that's more or less just us being, especially with this being a first time watch for both of us. I think that's just more accurate to what it really is.
Yeah. 4 is right.
I think 4 is right. And we also, as I said, I was leaning towards 3 3.75 stars, but I think the discussion brought me to a 4. I think 4 is the right number for it. I think 4 is a great score. It means that it's a hell of a movie. There are some problems, and I think overall, I mean, it's a solid, I don't know what 4 out of 5. It's a solid B+ movie, maybe A-.
I feel like A- is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's a movie I would show, and I'd be proud to say I've watched it, and I want to watch those extra 9 minutes. Where are they?
I would watch the extra 9 minutes on this, and I also would watch 2046, the sequel. But yeah, no, overall, I mean, this is our first foray into reviewing a movie that we've never seen before. And I'll be honest, I think it was probably just a great palate cleanser from what we put each other through in the first episode. So
yeah, we can watch good movies too.
Yeah.
Instead of just, whatever. We have such an overlap in content that we like, and we have such outliers from each other that it's like so ridiculous. He's talking about Terrifier and this, and I'm like, have you seen Barbie's Princess and the Pauper? And us having that like dichotomy there is what we find fun in, but I like that we actually came together in the middle there for this episode at least.
Yeah,
I can't keep watching bad movies, bro. Not all the time. I can't do it.
Yeah, so I think this is a great palate cleanser, and truthfully for me, I mean, watching movies is like what I do. Like that's my number one hobby. It was really cool. I mean, to see something that's totally unique to me. Like, I mean, I've never the country's films I'm not super familiar with outside of like karate movies. Like,
sure.
Like, again, and like I think you said, like it's the anti-Robert Eggers movie. I never felt like I was being talked down to the entire movie. So I think it walked that line of being deeper than your regular movie, but also accessible. And I really liked it.
Yeah. It was really fun. Expect a lot of random bullshit like that in the future, because I love pulling out some weird artsy stuff from 25 years ago, 50 years ago, and making you watch the movie with subtitles, so you have to pay attention.
Well, that's fair.
Not that you would pay attention.
On the flip side, I will probably be bringing up a lot of weird things with rubber creatures in them that you've never heard of.
Maybe I'll love them, though. You know how I feel about creatures.
Yeah. There's some that I think, because at least even some of these other movies like have plots and things.
Ooh, good. My favorite.
I love when movies have plots.
I love a story.
That being said, Blue, I think we're coming right up at our time here. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the movie before we bounce?
Maybe it's a 4.5 if I think about her ass. That I think maybe deserves another 0.5, but I'm gonna lock in 4. Final thoughts.
Maybe we can get just like a sticker for like that. We just like when we put our final score up here, it's like it's got like just like a pair of cheeks on it or something. if you're like, you know what, and if it helps, there's some sex appeal in this movie as well.
They're both fine as hell. Does anything happen? No, but they're both fine as hell, and there's tension. This
movie gets it gets a 4 out of 5 stars and 2 cheeks, 1 for each of the leads.
Incredible. Incredible.
I think on that note, we're going to be signing off, and thank you for checking us out. Like, rate, subscribe, do all that fun stuff.
And we'll see whatever the next movie we're going to watch is.
Oh, yeah. All right. Bye-bye.